Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. It's another CVR TALK. We are at the 6th edition of Curta Brasília Short Film International, and we are really glad to have here with us Marcela Stolzmann. She's based in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and as a really interesting coincidence, she's Brazilian. We've just discovered after we made the invitation for the film Another Dream to participate. So we are really happy to have you here with us. And just to remember, it's the 5th edition that we have the Netherlands Embassy with us. It's a really important partnership. We are making real collaboration between the two countries, and we made like 2 labs of co-creation, so the public, the audience, can see all these movies that we are going to talk on our CVR platform. You can create your own avatar and you can have some fun with people and can see these movies, all the CVR talks. And just to introduce before we talk with Marcela, this partnership between the Netherlands Embassy, it's really important because they believed since the beginning, in the first edition, in this pioneer XR ecosystem in Brazil. They supported us to bring people from Netherlands to produce with us. We made a special CVR space launch here. So it's really important to have you together with us in these pandemic times. We made this adaptation, so everything for the festival this year will be online for free to democratize XR content for everyone in 360 version. It will not be for a headset, it will be for everyone that have a computer to see this wonderful content. So that's it, just to say hi for everyone. And Marcela Stolzmann, she's a producer based in Amsterdam, and she works at Ado Pictures. And she can share with us here not only about the movie, Another Dream, that you can see, but about another contents. And to start, hello again, Marcela.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, especially since it's a Brazilian festival. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about the movie and more about like XR and VR and how it is to work here in the Netherlands as well.
Yeah, one curiosity, how long are you there in Amsterdam?
I've been here now for 4 years, and I've been working with Ado Pictures for the last 3 years. So most of my career here in the Netherlands has been within our production company. So it's just really exciting to grow within the studio and grow with the studio. And it's just been such a pleasure to be able to work with new media and all of these different things that are really growing and really big already, but keep growing within the Netherlands. And even more exciting to see different things happening with Brazil as well.
Oh, wonderful. And we mentioned about the XR ecosystem. Are you at the XR base, or did you participate on this collective?
Well, the XR base is like a big collective of different people who contribute to VR and XR content here in the Netherlands. We at Ado Pictures are actually based in the marine terrain, which is also where the XR base is based, at least their Dutch affiliate. And so in our first like a couple of years here in the marine terrain, we were actually working in the VR base a lot of the times. Now we have a couple of offices here in another building, so a little bit more space for us, but we're always collaborating. And I feel like here in the Netherlands, we're really lucky to have a lot of incentive to work with VR and like all the artists. It's big in comparison, I would say, because VR and XR is such a new thing, especially within the film industry and within like going into festivals and stuff like that. It's always like it's a new thing that is happening in this world. But in the Netherlands, I would say it's one of the countries where it's the most like predominant VR and XR content. So it is really lucky to have like this big connection with different people working and knowing each other and be able to recommend people. A lot of the times, like there will be developers that work in multiple projects, and we are able to make these connections and have like just with each other, just build this environment and build this ecosystem to keep making VR and distributing VR and finding ways to also make VR appeal to the public, because it can be quite niche, but I think it's growing more and more and becoming more of like a thing for everyone.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, when we were in Amsterdam for VR days and for another projects, we made like 2 labs of co-creation with Staya Halema. Dude's whole camp was together too. And we are really impressed about this collaboration. And did you have the support of Netherlands funds for the movie or any?
Yeah, so so the Netherlands Film Fund is one of like these big national like organizations that provide financial support for the arts. And one of the big grants that also exists in the Netherlands is Immerse Interact, which is specifically for immersive and interactive content. So our Film Another Dream has been partially funded, of course, from by the Netherlands Film Funds. And there's a lot of different organizations here in the Netherlands that really do promote the arts and like promote new and immersive content. So I think that also influences the fact that we can make this type of content in here, of course.
Yeah. And for us here in Brazil, it was really good to have this kind of support and to make this exchange, to understand how we can co-create together. Yeah, it was really cool. And something about the Adoato pictures, it was a good surprise to see the whole team. It's like a dream team for us, like a lot of women empowered, you know, and people from another countries. That's one of the things that the movie Another Dream talks about, to have this open culture to receive everyone. Here we have too in Brazil, but it's a different context about political things. So how is this this thing? How do you work together? And about Tamara and the other ones who are based in Amsterdam for a long time, or just came some years from?
Well, so Adoato is, I would describe it as a very international studio. Of course, we're based here in the Netherlands, our main office. We have like a branch too in LA. We have a producer in LA that works with some of like the American projects we work with. Here in Amsterdam is like our core production and producers team. And of course, we're a woman-led company, and Tamara is like our creative director, and she started Adoato back in 2015. But I think it's a really interesting, and I mean, I feel very fortunate to work here because we have all of our producers right now are women. And of course, women for different backgrounds and different nationalities. We always work with artists from different backgrounds and different nationalities. For example, in Another Dream, our main animator was from Indonesia. Right now, we work with other animators. One is based in Ireland. We have one in the UK, in America as well. We have artists that we collaborate very often here in the Netherlands as well. But it's really cool to have this international kind of like connections, because I think that's what Adoato is very much about, and also in a way also what Amsterdam is about. And I feel like that's why it feels so home for us to be based here, because I mean, here in our production team, at least none of us is Dutch. So it's like it's a Dutch studio, but our core production team, none of us are Dutch. Of course, we work with Dutch people, a lot of like Dutch collaborators. In the XR base, there's a lot of Dutch people and a lot of Dutch creators as well. But it is really great to feel that it's more than that, and it's also like this international community of creators coming together in a way here in Amsterdam. But yeah, Adoato itself, I think it it wasn't on purpose that we ended up being a very like woman-led studio. It kind of just happened, and fluidly that's kind of how it started being constructed. It's not a rule whatsoever that the studio runs like this, but for me, at least as like a young producer, it has been very inspiring to see other like women in these positions, and seeing like very experienced women lead these teams and like create this project. So I find that for me, this type of atmosphere is just like really great, and I think it has helped us create these projects that are about social issues and that touch on these important topics and like LGBTQ plus content. So I think it helped like us flourish as a studio as well.
Well, about this respect for all the diversity, actually it's a little weird that we are in 2020 and we must have to talk about it, but that's reality. So yes. Something it's really interesting about the Dutch policies, that they really have that on their line, like to provide better situations for everyone and promote content that talk, engage people for that. So when we mentioned about Another Dream, they were really happy about it. We are going to have another screenings next year. And you mentioned that this year, even in now this pandemic's context, you made like a premiere and you have like the IDFA lab, the lab. Could you mention about the other productions that you are doing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and within what you're talking, I feel like one of the things that is very much promoted here in the Netherlands is touching on these like social issues when you're making films. I feel like that's one of the things that the funds and like other organizations that help support films really push forward. And but yeah, this year we've been fortunate enough to be able to make a lot of different projects despite the pandemic. And I think part of it, of course, is because we need digital content, and that's a little bit what people are looking for at the moment. But even more surprising, we were able to have a physical premiere. We have been commissioned by the IDFA Doc Lab to make a planetarium project this year for the Artist Planetarium here in Amsterdam. The project is called Echoes of Silence, and it's a sound-driven journey through the sound design of space movies throughout the world. So our idea was a little bit to deconstruct how we imagine that space sounds like, because a lot of what we imagine that space sounds like comes from very Western-centric films like Star Wars and like more like these big Hollywood films. And we wanted to analyze how other films in other countries imagine that space sounds like, because in reality space has no sound. So this is all like our construction of like what space is like. So that was kind of like the premise of Echoes of Silence. And we were very nervous because we didn't know if we were going to get the premiere. We're not going to get it. And at the end, we were able to premiere it at the Artist Planetarium. Only 30 people allowed per session, but that is definitely better than none. But after that, we also made a VR version because it's a little bit easier to be able to give people access, especially now during the pandemic. So we've been fortunate enough to do that with IDFA this year. IDFA, and this project was also supported by the NL Film Fund. So like I feel like everyone's trying to find ways to create content and like keep pushing for the arts, even though we are in this pandemic. And then the other premiere that we had this year was actually the third installment of our series Queer in a Time of Forced Migration, which is like a 3-installment series that first had Half-Life, which was a short film, animated film, then Another Dream, which is the film that is screening with Curta this year, which is a VR project. And then we wanted to finish our series with They Call Me Asylum Seeker. Originally, we were going to do a physical installation, but of course, because of everything that happened this year, this was not possible. So we got a commission from the Open City Film Festival in London to make it into a web-based interactive experience. And it was our first time doing one. We're doing another one now, but it was our first time that time. And it was really interesting, and it's really great to use technology and like different forms of media and art to be able to tell these narratives and make them accessible to the audiences in diverse ways. It's been a really great experience, very experimental experience for us, but I think we learned a lot in the process as well.
Yeah, good that you didn't stop, because
Yes.
we had many challenges this year, and we better keep moving to inspire and others to do the same. Like, let's go, let's find some solutions. And it was really good really good to know.
Yeah. It is the year for creative solutions, basically, but I think we definitely were fortunate to get a lot of projects and just partners that really helped us push through. So really, really lucky and really happy to be able to keep going.
Yeah, and something about the creatorship of our festival. Normally, we are really engaged to politics of nature. That's one of the projects that we are making together between Netherlands, Denmark, United States, South Africa, Brazil, of course. And about this international collaboration, we really find, as you do, that that's the solution to do something together and to be connected as brothers and sisters from the same planet. Let's find good stories to tell. And another dream, it's really inspired by real stories. And I just hear from Tamara, the director, that she made the option about animation, this hybrid format, to protect the real identities. So you, as a producer, could you share with us some curiosities on how was to make this movie? And it's a really deep story that we talk about their feelings, these kind of culture challenge from another cultures, but of course respecting another countries like Egypt. And how was it? How was it for you? And what do you want to share with the audience that will see the movie?
Well, so I think, and you mentioned this, the concept of using animation to protect identities was something that we used in all of the three installment of the series. The first short film also uses animation, and Another Dream is a VR piece, but also with animation. And They Call Me Asylum Seeker is web-based, but also with animation. And I think that really helped us be able to bring their real voices as well. That's something we really wanted the films to have, and animation really works in that sense. But then, of course, each of them was made in a completely different way. And that's a little bit, we as a studio, we have a philosophy that we think about the story first and the medium after. And of course, we are a new media studio, so we love experimenting with technology and using different types of medium to tell stories. But I think first what we like to do is think about that story and think about what is a compelling way to tell this specific story. How can we engage the audience? How can we immerse them into this world? And that was a little bit how Another Dream came to be, because we had already done Half a Life, and then when we were talking about the story of Another Dream, and we were working on the script, and we were working with the two women that they're the main characters in the film, there was this narrative of a journey. So like traveling and like leaving your country and like going into a new unknown place and going through all of these challenges. And we really wanted to have the audience travel with them and be them throughout that journey. And that's kind of how we went into like the VR route, in the sense of like, we want people to be immersed in this world with them. And it's a film that is very grounded, of course. In reality, it's a documentary at the end of the day, but it has like these fantastical landscapes and like it uses animation to evoke emotions. And I feel like that's what we were trying to do, in a sense of like really not guiding, but letting the audience experience them and experience them with the characters. And I feel like, and this is something that's really tricky with new media, because we have to constantly tell ourselves, like, what technology best complements the story, and not like, oh, I just want to make this technology because it's fun. It's more, we try at least first, like as a studio, to be like story first, and like the narrative is very important for us. And that was also like with They Call Me Asylum Seeker, we had this whole discussion with like, how do we make this now in times of Corona, but like our initial vision was this, so what will complement like this piece? And even with Another Dream, when we were doing the prototyping for it, which is a big thing, of course, in like new media and VR. So like prototyping is like the thing that you have to do. That is one of the most important things, because it really tells you how the audience is engaging with the piece, what is actually being transmitted, and like if your intended story is actually coming across or not. But like when we were prototyping for Another Dream, we actually had a lot more interaction in the beginning, in the first prototype, with like the environments and stuff. And what we realized was a lot of people were getting lost in the interaction gamified aspects of the piece, and not really following the story. So we made a conscious decision to tone that down and ground it more within the environment and the immersion instead of the interaction, because these can also, there are different things that can complement each other, but there's always like a balance of like interactivity and immersion, and like, how do I make something interactive and immersive? What works best for this piece? What works best for another piece, and etc. So it was like a big conversation that we had throughout like the making of the movie, and how to best serve the story. And I think that's our main approach to storytelling and like filmmaking, at least in our studio. And it's hard, because a lot of the times, at least for me, I'm a super big tech enthusiast. So like, I'll see something new and I'll be like, oh, I want to try that. I want to make that. I want to make something like that. I want to try that technology. And sometimes you just gotta like stop yourself and be like, okay, what are you actually making? Let's think about what actually works with the story. Why do we want to do this? So I think it's like an exercise of always trying to like ground yourself into like, what is the purpose of the piece? What are you trying to say? Who are you telling the story to? Why are you telling this story? You know? And I think that's maybe an exercise that we'll do like forever while we're filmmaking, but it's part of the fun as well, figuring out what best serves your story, but at the same time figuring out how to bring these innovative mediums and how to work with them. And it's very challenging. Like Another Dream was very hard to make. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was very, very difficult, and it was our first VR piece. So we were also learning as we went, and like prototyping, of course, saved our lives. But I think also having all these connections and all these people around us that like helped us, and mentors and stuff, that also really did change like the whole production process and help us realize what were our challenges and what were things that we should improve upon. And that's kind of how Another Dream came to be, a simplified version, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And about Another Dream, this journey of two lesbians and two women crossing boundaries, not the metaphorical ones, the real ones too. And why did you choose VR 360? That's one of the questions that we hear from the move makers normally. Why should I try this new immersive world? Because you just changed, you move like a click to produce it, because it's completely different in somehow, and the script and the things. How do you define that? Why do you believe that 360 in VR is important for this story?
Well, I think 360 and VR was a very new medium. So of course, there's still a lot of debate and different philosophies that go into the making of this, and like the importance of the making of this. But I don't think, a lot of people think that film and VR are in competition with each other. And I don't think that's true. I think these are it's the same of people saying, I don't know, radio and television are in competition with each other. And I don't think they are. I think they are different mediums that serve different purposes and appeal to a different audience. And I would say that the same is true with VR. The difference is VR is very much a new medium, and it's still something that people are refining. We're refining the technology. I feel like that's one of the big barriers with VR nowadays. It's like, who can access it? How do we do it? But that's already changing very fast with 360 videos. You can watch now VR 360 on YouTube, or like headsets are also, like, the prices are going down. It's becoming a little bit more affordable. A lot more film festivals are doing VR content and XR content. So we see that changing, but it's still a very new medium. But I don't think it necessarily competes with film. I think film will always be there, and VR will be there as well. And I think the two can be used to tell stories in different ways. And I think some stories are better suited for film, and other stories are better suited for VR. This is a little bit of my personal philosophy, I would say. But the first time I put on a headset, I feel like everyone that does it, the first time they put on a headset, they start looking all around, you know, and then they're like, oh my God. And you really feel like you're inside that place. So for me, VR has a lot to do with environmental storytelling, which is a little bit similar maybe even to like game theory, and how like a lot of games use environmental storytelling and like exploration of the environment to tell certain narratives. And I feel like VR is very similar in that sense, because you can stay in a shot in a film for a long time if you want to, but eventually the audience starts getting a little, okay, why am I way too long in the shot? Now in VR, shots are much longer, usually in length and duration, because you want to explore that, because you are within that shot and you want to look at every angle, you want to discover the little details within that shot. So I think VR is very much environmental, immersive storytelling, and it's just a different approach than film. And that's part of the challenge. And of course, there's the whole other part of VR, there's the more interactive storytelling. That's also one thing that is not possible in normal film. And it's different if you have like your own engagement and your input to that story. It's like a different form of, it's not as passive as film. And of course, there's still value in like passively watching film, but I think there's still value also in interacting with that story. And like, it's almost like a material sort of sensation of just having input or changing the environment and acting with it. So just different mediums for different things. But I do feel like it's still a challenge for people. For us it is, and I feel like for everyone that makes VR and everyone that does new media, is like, what are the stories I want to tell in new media? What are the stories that fit this medium, and how do I use this medium to make the stories better instead of drowning them in technology, which is always like possible. But I think, I don't know, the state of VR nowadays, I feel like people really understand that. And at least here with like the workshops that we do, it's very much a debate. It's like, how do we create this content? And people are very much engaged in the discussion, and like, what do we want to make, and what is this medium for? So that's really exciting as well.
Yeah, and we are suspect to talk about it because Curta Brasília, we are really investing on that labs, and almost for 5 years, we are really engaged to show for the audience the power of VR. And that's one classical word that is related to VR. It's about empathy and embodiment. And when we talk about human rights, about LGBTQ plus community, and we know that we must have to talk about it in a good way, like to engage people in a deep way, in a normal way, like for people that have not an approach of these things. So when you put the headset or you see a movie and you feel like inside the story together with the two women crossing the boundaries, or if you feel like you are inside the body of someone watching the reality for another perspective, we really think that VR is powerful for that, to engage people for these things about human rights. So what do you think about, as a Brazilian, what do you think that Netherlands has about this special thing about human rights? And yeah, that's it.
Well, first, just going back to what you were saying, yes, completely agree with the VR power of empathy. I feel like that's what a lot of people call it, is like being able to really put yourself in that situation, that position, and that's really strong. But yeah, the Netherlands, I think it's a country with like a history of being like this liberal, inclusive, diverse country. And of course, like even things like, for example, the first ever like gay marriage was like here in the Netherlands, and like there's this whole culture of inclusivity, and I think it's, of course, it's not a utopia. No country is perfect, but it's really cool, and it's really empowering in a way for us as creators to have so much support coming from like different other people who live here, but labs and like different forms of funding and like workshops and all this stuff that really do focus and like really try to promote like engagement with these issues. I find that really, really great. I mean, we are a studio that focuses on social issues, and of course it's not a coincidence that we're based here. I think we're based here because we are very much in some form of connection with the Netherlands in a whole, but like with all of these different values of diversity, of inclusion, and these not just values, I would say, but debates. This debate here is very alive. The debate around like diversity, about like migration, social issues. It's just something that is very much part of daily life, to be like aware of these things. And of course, you will encounter people of any type of different like background and worldview, or here as well as anywhere else. But I do think it's part of the culture to have that inclusive debate. And within like within media and like creative production, of course, I feel like that's like very much part of the tradition within the Netherlands. But also, yeah, our current I would say media production is very much geared towards these issues and like talking about them and creating more debates. And of course, we see this also because here in the Netherlands we have ITFA, so like that's a big documentary festival. We have the Queer Migrant Film Festival as well, which is a really big festival as well, with like a great history of like bringing more of these themes to like the city and to the country. So I think it's just like a really good place to start these conversations and make media that starts these conversations. But of course, I hope that we can, and it's also a country that, and a media atmosphere that includes other countries as well. So like, for example, we just did this year, we were part of the, we did the pitch forum with the Netherlands Film Festival, and then we also did the workshop with the Torino Film Lab. And the Netherlands Film Festival, of course, is a Netherlands Film Festival, so it's part of the Netherlands. But there was like a lot of international filmmakers that like did their pitches here, and like there's this whole super like international group of filmmakers. So that's super exciting to learn about their projects, to see like the Netherlands also like supporting those projects. And then the Torino Film Lab was actually we did the interactive kind of part of the Torino Film Lab, which was put together by the NL Film Fund. So like there's also that connection. But then there were also makers like coming from Luxembourg and from Belgium. So this international community is super important, not just to debate these important issues, but also I believe for like the future of film and VR and the inclusion of these social issues, because we need the diversity and we need the different perspectives to make this medium grow and make this medium be appropriate to tell these stories, I would say.
Yeah, and we are really glad to have you as a Brazilian producer making the bridge between the two countries. Actually, for us, Curta Brasília Film Festival, it's really important to have these international partners that we are not talking about sponsors, but that's a way to learn how to make in a different point of view. And that's the thing, the interesting human people, you know, to exchange these and to have fun working and have fun and learning. And that's a way to be a good professional, when you can hear and learn from the other, to have a good storytelling. And well, that's it. We are really proud about Ado Pictures. Congrats for the Another Dream of the movies. And actually, we can stay the whole day talking here, but I think people want to see the movies.
Yes, and I know I talk a lot too, so I have to hold myself back to be like I can talk for days about our movies and about making movies and about VR and about film festivals. But that's the beauty of the whole, like, and it's great that we're doing this despite Corona, which is really crazy, because the film festivals this year completely changed, but we're still here and we're still making those connections. So that's really amazing at the end of the day.
Yeah, we believe that the importance of the festivals is to be this space to connections between the artists, producers, the audience, and everyone. That's how we can maintain this CVR TALK and all this ecosystem, and to have like energy to go on with the projects, with the ideas. And with, I have to say that, with another dreams. Yeah, we have to dream and we have to do, and that's really important to know more about what you're doing to inspire everyone here too. So,
but even as filmmakers, for us, these parts of like the end of the project where you get to talk to people, it's amazing. You need to make those connections. That's how you keep getting inspired.
Yeah, and now, Marcela, if you want to share with everyone, you can talk in Portuguese if you want. We have subtitles for all. And share like the last words for this CVR talk before we introduce Tamara. She will be here with us with a presentation to talk about Another Dream and other information about her productions. So if you want to share with us the last words here.
Ok. Então, queria agradecer a vocês, o pessoal da organização do festival. Foi muito legal poder ter essa colaboração e vir aqui conversar com todo mundo, conversar sobre o nosso projeto. Para mim é um maior prazer, assim, poder ter essa conexão com o Brasil e, assim, a conexão com o festival super show brasileiro que está fazendo essa conexão da Holanda com o Brasil, etc. Então, para mim, é muito especial isso, muito especial poder falar aqui e trazer esse projeto, que foi muito importante para nós, nosso primeiro projeto em realidade virtual, e poder, assim, disseminar essa nova forma de contar histórias, e espero que também tenha feito todo mundo se interessar assim, um pouco por essas coisas tecnológicas, essas mídias diferentes que podem ser também novos modos de contar histórias. Pra gente é super legal, espero que todo mundo esteja entusiasmado com ver todos esses filmes diferentes que vão ser disponibilizados pelo festival também. É difícil falar em português sobre o trabalho, nossa. A gente não está acostumado, mas muito legal, muito bom ter essa oportunidade. Acho que vai ser uma das primeiras e talvez últimas vezes que eu posso falar em português sobre o trabalho, mas é muito bom.
Que maravilha! É uma coincidência muito boa.
Muito boa.
Você conosco aqui, tá aí nessa ponte Brasil-Holanda de uma forma tão concreta.
Eu espero que algum dia eu possa vir para o festival verdade, fisicamente. Aí vai ser bem legal também.
Sim. Agradecemos muito. E uma brincadeira aqui com a equipe nossa de tradução e legendagem. We are going back
Vou ficar confusos.
to English version. Just
English.
to thank you again, Ado Pictures and everyone, our producer and friend, do the whole camp, Marisa Peixoto, Rebecca, Ana Paula, Vivian, all the whole dream team of Curta Brasília Film Festival. We are working hard to make this happen for you, all this audience, and again, Netherlands Embassy and the whole team that believe on VR and to engage people for really important content and subjects as we have in Another Dream. So I really hope, Marcela, that we can see each other here at Curta Brasília 10th edition, special edition next year. We are going to celebrate 10 years.
That'll be great.
And we see again too, in Netherlands, we are going to make Nada Labs co-creations. So let's keep going. And
I hope to see you guys around.
And now we have Tamara, if you can say a little bit before we start with her.
Well, just to introduce her, maybe. Tamara is our creative director at Ado Pictures. She started the studio back in 2015. So she's like our I don't want to say big boss, but I would say she's like our heart. She's the heart of our studio for sure. So it's really great that you guys can hear from her too, to talk about this project that was it's very dear to all of our hearts, but I would say for her especially, she worked on it for almost 10 years. So it's been like this journey of completing Queer in a Time of Forced Migration. And she's just a very talented, very passionate filmmaker. And I feel very, very fortunate to learn from her. And I hope you guys also enjoy all the knowledge and like the backstory that she'll share with you.
Thank you so much. See you soon. And let's
thank you guys.
Nada with us now. Bye bye.
Hi, my name is Tamara Shogaolu, and I'm the creative director of Apoio Pictures. We're an Amsterdam and Los Angeles-based studio working mostly in animation, film, and new and immersive media. The name Apoio comes from an ancient Yoruba folk tale in which an Apoio is a container used for magic spells, and similarly to how these containers hold magic, we hope to encapsulate magic and bring it to screens and environments around the world. But I'll start by talking about a series that we recently completed, which is called Queer in a Time of Forced Migration. And it's taken me almost 11 years now to finish this series. And it follows the stories of 4 LGBT individuals from the Middle East and North Africa region and their journeys basically to asylum in Europe. The project started when I was living in Egypt, and it's composed of 3 parts. Half a Life, which is a short animated documentary film which focuses on the life of an LGBT activist in Egypt, and basically what would force someone to make the decision to have to leave home after the revolution. The second part is a virtual reality experience. It's a hybrid game and animated documentary, and it follows the story of a lesbian couple from Egypt in Saudi Arabia and their journey to the Netherlands, and kind of like what happens after you make the decision to leave home and what that's like. And then the final part is They Call Me Asylum Seeker, which was originally designed to be a location-based experience, but because of COVID, we ended up getting a commission to make a digital adaptation of it, which was premiered a few weeks back at the Open City Documentary Film Festival in London. And will be playing later this year at the Amsterdam Museum in conjunction with the rest of the series. So it'll be the first time that all 3 parts will be seen together at once. So as I was saying, Queer in a Time of Forced Migration started when I was living in Egypt many, many years ago. I was an economist in a past life, and I was doing economic research, but I was always interested in film. And when the revolution broke out, an Egyptian journalist friend and I decided to travel around Egypt, collecting oral histories, but focusing mostly on ethnic and religious minorities, as well as LGBT community and women, and mostly marginalized communities basically around the country. And we really wanted to see and have open conversations with people about what it was like to be living in Egypt during that time. And it was a particularly open time, and here are some photos from that period of us traveling around. People were really open, and it was, I feel really fortunate to have had a recorder and be able to have had those conversations with people, because we soon learned that it was a small window in time, and there was a really strong pushback for the revolution after it happened. So as I mentioned, the first part of the film is an animated documentary, and it focuses on one particular activist's journey from the revolution and what led him to make the decision to leave his home. It took a while to finish this because we had to wait until he got asylum in Europe. He's in Germany now to release the film in order to protect his identity. Animation played a big role in this. So I'll play you a little trailer of that.
Well, it's very difficult for me to decide if I love Egypt or if I hate Egypt. And sometimes I feel like I hate this country, I just want to move out.
Yeah, so we use animation to protect the identity of some of the individuals that we're working in, whose stories we're sharing through this project. And Half a Life went on to premiere at the Museum of Modern Art in New York and play at numerous film festivals and on television as well in Europe and Asia, and has won numerous awards, and it allowed us the support to garner support in order to continue with the series towards completion. The second part of the series, as I mentioned, is an animated documentary as well, but in this form it's virtual reality, and it's a hybrid game and animated documentary experience. So it's grounded in real stories, and I'll show you a little teaser of that.
Hundreds of thousands of migrants have streamed into Europe, the largest influx there since the...
They will take over Europe and even the whole world. That's the plan of all Muslim people.
They call us silent. I don't like it, but they call us silent. I don't like to be called by some group of people or some situation that happened to me to be called to fight.
My girlfriend was about to send Saudi Arabia to get married by force.
It was dark, in a field maybe, and everything's dark. Couldn't see my hand or hair, face or anything. Everything was dark, and we just hold our hands and just start walk. A dark road and nothing and no light and no anything. We just decide that we are going to walk until we see any light. We got out of Egypt, both of us. Together. Yeah.
For another dream, we kind of focused on a few different components, and this is kind of where we focused a lot on the intersection of story and technology, and we mixed different styles of animation, which hadn't really been done before at this point, where we mixed animation that was made and drawn in virtual reality with hand-drawn 360 environments, so it was frame-by-frame animation, as well as some other forms of 3D animation. There were also gameplay elements, and the experience was also designed to be scalable to reach as many audiences as possible. And I think that has allowed the experience to tour and be presented in multiple spaces. As I mentioned, there were, excuse me, as I mentioned, we mixed different types of animation. So as you can see here, there's a bit of a flow as far as like how you can see the three different types of animation coming together with some 2D elements, as well as some of like the characters who were drawn in virtual reality and animated, and then the environments were built out with traditional 3D animation, but then we used like painterly hand-painted textures and colors to give them shape and mix in some 2D elements as well.
Well, it is quite different than drawing 2D, but at the same time, it's like it's a really good experience to. It's not so much sculpture, but at the same time, it kind of is for someone like me who is always drawing. But you really get to draw the things you're drawing, like hands and faces, in 3D, which is quite exciting because you can walk around it and you're really lost in your own world. The challenge is, of course, to make something believable and like really 3D in the program, which is great, and I'm learning a lot from it. So that's a challenge in a totally positive way. Sometimes you're not even aware that things are not really going right, and then you look back in some animation frames, for instance, and then you see that something has gone wrong. On the one hand, it's really immersive. I mean, you're in a totally different space. That's what it feels like for me. I'm very happy to work on this project because I think it's great. I dream about 3D programs at night.
The gameplay component of the experience was something that I think required a lot of testing as far as trying to stay true to the real stories that form the backbone of this experience, but then also by allowing us to incorporate and maintain some of the Arabic was really important to me, because I feel like Arabic is a language that has often been politicized, and I started conducting the interviews in Arabic, and then they ended up going into English, and because it's really hard to have VR, subtitles in VR, we decided to tell the story mostly in English to reach broader audiences. But we thought it was important to incorporate Arabic into the experience because it also shapes the way that our characters fell in love in Arabic, and it's the language, their native tongue. So we incorporated that by having audiences have to try to learn or trace over words in Arabic in order to open or proceed with the story. So that's one of the examples of the gameplay elements, but there's also some gaze-triggered interactions and movement-triggered interactions inside of the virtual space as well. This kind of gives you a little bit of a background into how we try to map out our interactivities in the moments in which they happen, and how we kind of test out things. And I think this type of mapping is really important to our process and making sure that story stays connected to user experience and interactivity. As far as scalability, as I mentioned, Another Dream was designed to be a two-person experience with interactive gameplay, but there's also some video art that we made for the installation component of it, which is kind of what we've been touring at certain museums and festivals as well. We've also made a 360 film version that doesn't have gameplay, so it can be on YouTube or experienced on different types of headsets, so it doesn't necessarily require like the room scale headset setup. And there's also like a way to experience it on web with just a simple 360 video. And I'll show you guys some examples of some installations. So this was an installation that we did at Tribeca, and as you can see, there's a video art component that sets up the experience, and the Arabic text on the background is basically text from this poem by Khalil Gibran called Half a Life, which inspired the whole series, and it basically talks about individuals choosing to live a full life rather than being forced to live half a life, because we are not half people. And I think that that's really symbolic of the whole experience that ties in throughout the whole parts of the series of queer and time and forced migration. Here's another example of a different setup of the installation, so it's very easy to mold it and shape it to different environments and spaces. The final part of the series is called They Call Me Asylum Seeker, and as I mentioned, we recently did a digital adaptation of it for web, so look out for that. It's available online, so people can experience it anywhere in the world. Yeah, I hope you have a chance to check it out. We allow users to be driven by audio, and this final piece brings back all 4 characters together to kind of reflect on the last 10 years of their lives, and it also loops in a new character who's from Sudan, who recently went back to see his family for the first time after 10 years away, and how he was able to still feel connected to the recent uprisings in Sudan. So in a way, the series starts with a revolution and ends with another one, and raises questions about what it means to find home, and if we're ever really able to find the place that we call home. But because of the current pandemic, we decided to adapt They Call Me Asylum Seeker from being a location-based experience to a web experience. But we've continued doing some work in our Storyroom platform with Bembe, and we're currently working on a project called Anushka, which takes place in a storyroom, and it's a story about, it's a fiction project, and it's a story about a young Afro-Dutch girl growing up in Amsterdam, who, when evil forces come to take her family, she must tap into her special power to silence these evil forces and fight for her voice. I won't tell you too much about it, but we're really excited about this project because audiences will be able to interact with the story. It's a very sound-driven experience as well. So there's a lot of spoken word and hip-hop and different types of music in the experience. And audiences have to chant back to Anushka in order to like unlock her powers, and they have to assist her on her journey in order to fight the evil forces. And it's geared towards younger audiences, but really families. And I think that at its core, it's a story about family. And I know that this period, this year, has been very challenging for a lot of people. So we wanted to tell a story that was about the beauty of intergenerational family love and traditions, and how to fight for a voice when you feel like you're being silenced during these really challenging, difficult times. And it's also propelled by the ethos of Black girl magic, and tapping into that resilience that many Black women have to use in order to propel through life. So I would say that that's kind of the core of Anushka, and we're really excited to be able to continue experimenting with our story room, and we can't wait to bring this to audiences next year. So I think that's all I have time for talking about today. I hope that I can meet all of you one day. It's really interesting giving a presentation and not being able to see anyone, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I just wanted to leave you all with this quote, which I think drives a lot of my work and has inspired me a lot, by Audrey Tan, who's the digital minister of Taiwan, and how I see the intersection of technology and storytelling, and how to connect more with humanity, I guess. When we see the Internet of Things, let's make it an Internet of Being. When we see virtual reality, let's make it a shared reality. When we see machine learning, let's make it a collaborative learning. When we see user experience, let's make it about human experience. When we hear the singularity is near, let us remember that plurality is here. And I think that sort of captures a lot of what we try to do at Adoato. And lastly, please feel free to reach out and contact me. If you have any questions, we're around, and I work with a lot of really amazing, talented, and kind people who are always willing to help out, and we're always open to new projects and exciting ideas. Thank you.